Wouldn't you know it that right after everyone blew their Visior pulling for wall, myself included, that we'd get the coolest new units the following week? Well, that's actually how it happened in Japan as well, so we probably should have predicted that. But today I'm going to be covering Kilphe and Seymore and give you a recommendation on whether or not you should pull for these units. But keep in mind that pulling in this game is pretty subjective. It depends on what your account needs, so my recommendation will take that into mind. Ultimately, it's going to be up to you to decide if these units fit your team and make that final choice on whether or not you should pull. But hopefully I can help you by giving you some information that you might not have had that will make your decision a little bit easier. I'll start by going over the basic advice for pulling in War of the Visions. So this is advice that I've read on Reddit, and it was tailored towards pulling limited units, but I think it's kind of applicable in a lot of ways. So you should plan on having about 34,000 Visior to pull for a unit, and then an additional 34,000 to buy up their shards during their featured period. This is if you want a reasonable chance to pull the unit, and then you also want to get them to max limit break while their shards are appearing in the shop. However, there's some leeway here because that's not everybody's goal. You don't really need 68k Visior every time you're going to pull a unit. Again, these numbers come from pulling a limited unit and getting their shards during a limited amount of time. But in this case, both Kilphe and Seymore are going to join the regular pool of units, which means that we can do hard quests and we can work on them over time, and this takes a lot of pressure off of pulling. But I also want to mention that nothing is ever guaranteed. That means that you could pull Kilphe on your first pull, and it means you could never pull her no matter how much you spend. So you have to make a decision on whether or not your Visior level is high enough, or if you feel comfortable spending it. Maybe it could be better to just keep saving and have a really large pool for a different unit than to pull for this one with a small amount of Visior. And honestly, that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing since I only have about 6k left anyway. Alright, with that out of the way, let's actually talk about the units themselves. So we're going to start with Seymore, who is our new MR unit. He is Fire Elements, and his main job is Samurai, sub-jobs Viking and Thief. He uses a katana and then has armor, helm, and accessory for his equipment. He has a Trust Master, which is a katana, and it's got some decent attack, it's got some accuracy and some crit, which is pretty sweet. And then it also has an ability that has a chance to inflict slow on attack, which is very nice. He's also got a delightful master ability, which is to increase attack by 10%, which he needs, and then to increase his accuracy by 30, which is very appetizing with all of these evade teams running around right now. If we actually take a look at his stats, he's got some decent ones. So some of the ones to look out for, and they're not spectacular. Again, this is an MR unit, but he has okay HP for sure. He gets quite a bit from his job stats and a little bit from the board and some from his leveling up. But where he's pretty nice is he's got decent agility, so his agility is going to get to 60 at the max, which is very good, and then his luck is also, it's not crazy high, but I would say it's above average. I haven't looked at the overall rankings. I'm trying not to change my opinion or kind of go into something biased because I looked up all the stats in Japan or something, or the advice. So I'm trying to do this myself by using my own opinion and sorting out all this information. So his attack is a little bit lower than compared to other samurais, but then he gets this increased attack 20% on his board, and he also gets his 10% increase on his master ability. So he gets some pretty good stats overall for an MR. He's also got good jobs for an MR, Samurai, Viking, and Thief, that's going to give him access to a bunch of different things. But before we move on to the skills, we'll just take a quick look at the resistances. So he has ice resistance, which is a nice resistance to have, but the issue there is that the two ice units are Victora and Medina, and his two weaknesses for damage are piercing and then for magic. So those are the two types of damage that those units will do. So that's kind of a shame. He has the striking resistance naturally, but that is not as big a deal. It's still, striking is not a huge thing right now. He does, though, have some weakness to water, which again is actually not that bad because there just aren't that many water units running around. So we can kind of give him a pass on that one. Now, taking a look at his skills, he's going to have a lot of options for support that you're going to want to try, and one of the ones that I love is our Thief ability that will give him an extra move, and getting that extra move is a really big deal. Getting the extra agility is also very important, so he can be quite a fast unit. But he's also going to get some really nice skills from his Samurai, so he can increase his evasion rate and his attack while decreasing his defense, but then he could also increase his HP and attack from his Viking skill. And I know these all have English names, I just haven't gone through the trouble of comparing them or guessing them off the top of my head. But he's got this missile resistance increase, which is very interesting to me because if you're doing some PvP hunting, then you can definitely slot that in and go out for some gunner teams with the rest of your missile resist party, and that could be pretty fun. But I think for the most part, you're going to be building him in two different ways, and that's going to depend on which of these skills you take. So more on that in just a second here. So otherwise, he's got some counter abilities that are all fine, and again, you're going to use these depending on which of the ways that you build him. Okay. So for his jobs, they're all pretty standard skills. So for Samurai, he's got he's basically got the same Samurai kit that everyone has. So he's got his Hien's range, and he's got the meditation for increasing your bravery, and some other great skills. And I think that you're going to sub Samurai if you're going for an evasion build of Seymore, and you can do that because he's got his increase evasion rate here, he's got his increase evasion rate counter, his increase evasion rate passive, as well as the increase agility passive, which will help with his evasion. And again, we said that his evasion or his agility stat and his luck stat were decent, so you really could put him into an evade team if you were on a budget, and he would be able to fit in fine that way. But we could also build him kind of as a bruiser, so we could go for attack and defense, and he's going to get that from his Viking skills. And this is the one that appeals to me as someone that doesn't have a lot of evasion ready to go. I would build him as more of a bruiser, and you can see when we go down to his Viking skills that he gets a defense buff, he gets an attack buff, and that's very nice. He also gets launch, which is a little bit more powerful than Hien, but a little more expensive, and then he gets the whatever the full body blow attack is, and that's like a really nice powerful finisher. So that's definitely very appetizing to me to play him as a Viking, but I love that he gives you those two options. He is going to have slashing damage across the board, so you're not going to be able to get him out of matchups where if they are of slash resist, then he's just going to take that hit. But he also has a third option of being a very good support unit, because he's a thief that gets Steel Heart and Steel Time, as well as your classic your snipe knife, your steel vision, and steel and evasion, what's the shadow bind or whatever it is when he increases the evasion rate. So he gets all of the good skills for thief except for mug, but we can give him a pass on that again. But there's just a lot of options here to build him, and I think that makes this actually a very good MR to get. And at first when I saw him, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, what does he really do? But now that I've looked through his kit, I'm actually kind of sold on him, and I would be happy to pull him. He's also a fire unit, which is something that people might not have a lot of because there's not that big fire units in the meta. There is rain now, but otherwise and correct me if I'm wrong, there's just not that much fire going around, so it is a very interesting unit to build if that's gonna fit your team. So why would you pull Seymore? Well, I don't think that you will. this isn't someone that you're going to be pulling on a banner for, but if you get him, then that's certainly going to be a nice unit to stash away. Now, he might fit your team if you're looking for someone to add to your evade side. If you don't have a thief yet, if you're a new player and you haven't got a thief for raids and for tower, then he's going to be a really nice tower unit for you, so you can build him if you get him. But again, for the MR units, generally you're not going to pull for them, and the exception is like Seymore. When she was on banner, people were pulling for her because she was an MR plus, but we're not actually going to be pulling just for Seymore. But hopefully I've convinced you now that if you pull him, then he should be a strong consideration for someone that you should build. Alright, on to the main attraction now. Here is Kilphe. So she's a very cool unit because she gets a ton of stuff in her kit, and I'm very excited to look at how you can build her, but we'll start with the basics. She is a UR unit, Earth Element, which is always nice because she has lightning resistance against Orlando, and her base move is 3 and her jump is 1. She has the new job Staff Mage, which is kind of a ripoff. Japan called it Battle Mage, which is what she is. She is a mage on the front lines right in the battle. Everybody's a staff mage. Medina's a staff mage, so I don't really understand what the translation team was going for there. But she also gets Spellblade and White Mage, which is very, very interesting. And you can think about Seymore and Medina both have Ninja, which gives them agility, and it gives them their Shukichi so they can, sorry for the pronunciation, so that they can move and jump and get around the field very easily. Well, Kilphe is not going to be able to do that without using an ability because she doesn't get those ninja stats, but instead she has 3 magic based jobs, which means she actually gets more magic stats than those units do, which is very awesome. She also has a TMR that's an accessory, which I'm always a big fan of, with 8 defense and 15 crit and 201 HP. It has a skill that is allows you to increase your attack resistance and decrease your area resistance for 3 turns. So that's kind of interesting. And then the master ability, increase HP by 20%. I think that's always fine to have. And then decrease activation time 200. This is something that Victoria got as well, and it's a really big deal. It helps a lot in PvP because you don't want people to move out of the way. So let's take a look at her stats. So she's going to get, you can see right off the bat, a ton of HP plus her master ability, which is just going to make her very, very beefy for a mage compared to the other mages that you might use. She's also going to get a super high magic stat. She gets more magic than Medina does, which was really surprising to me. She also gets good dexterity and good luck, and even gets increased 20% in luck. So she has all of these amazing stats. The one place that she falters is her agility at 57 without any modifiers, but I think that that's not even terrible. So really what we're looking at for demerits so far are her move and her agility, so we'll see if that changes in any way. And then for her resistances, she is weak to wind, which is kind of a big deal. There's lots of good wind units, and then she's strong against lightning, which is a massive coup because Orlando is just in every team out there, so it's always good to have that lightning resistance. Her damage resistances are very, very good as well. She gets 15 slashing and 15 missile, and then 10% magic. Those are all very, very common attacks, especially slashing, and then she's weak to striking and to piercing. So she does have some weaknesses, but she has that defense to make up for it. If we look at her board stats, you can actually see she gets defense and spirit right off the bat here, and then we're going to see in her kit what else she gets. So moving on to her skills, she's going to get some new ones and some familiar ones. So Staff Mage actually gets magic up just like Medina does, the same properties here, and then defense up, which is again something that we've seen before and can be a very nice tech choice depending on what you're doing. The Providence of Lightning is from the Spellblade, and that is something that I would consider to be used with the magic up, because you're just generally going to get some good lightning resistance, magic resistance, and then your magic up. The defense is only if you're building your team a certain way, or if you're building her as your main tank, then that could be pretty interesting to use the defense up as well. She has a counter ability called Anti-Barrier, and it has a chance to counter damage, all types of damage, and then reduce that damage taken, which is very nice as well to take less damage but also damage back. That's great. Then she gets the regular Spellblade and White Mage counters. The Regenerator is really awesome in tower, and Magic Guard is also something to consider just because you'll get a greater reduction of damage compared to Anti-Barrier, but only for Magic, and that would be again a meta call, or if you're PvP hunting for specific teams, then by all means that's something that you might look into. For her Battle Mage, for her Staff Mage, she's going to get some interesting abilities here. So we have a couple of moves that all have the word staff in them, because I guess she's a Staff Mage. Maybe I should look at her animations before I judge, because who knows, maybe she's like a pseudo Noctis, but instead of a bunch of different weapons, she has a bunch of different staffs or something. But the first one is Earth Staff, and it's interesting because it can actually I believe it slows someone down, but it has a cast time. I want to see what this looks like, but the range isn't very far. So this is the biggest thing that you're going to notice with her, is that she's not going to have the range of your Medina or your Selir necessarily. She's going to have a different skill set. She's going to be able to increase her jump and her move, which is very cool, although I don't know that she's going to be able to use this in PvP. If Victoria is any example, she never uses Dragon Standard to get her move and jump up, so I wonder if Kilphe will ever do this, although it'd be very, very nice if she does. I'm very interested to see her AI in general, because she does have White Mage as well. Then we have Shield of Staves, which is going to be a defensive buff. Again, just such a great thing to have if you're going into combat. And then here is the big attack. It's an AoE that hits 9 panels and is a 100% guaranteed hit attack, so you can hit evasion teams this way. It has an expensive cost, but it also does a lot of damage, and it scales with her magic, as all of her attacks are going to. So this Energy Buster is a really big deal. This is the coolest thing she has in her kit. Then she has some sub Staff Mage abilities if you use that as the sub job. So she has some debuffs. She has a way to move in closer to people with Step and Magic to do some damage, and she has another debuff here. So these debuffs, they're going to be better with her because you'll increase your faith to max. That will allow her to be able to hit with the debuffs more often, but I'm kind of interested in some of her other jobs here. So for example, with Spellblade, you're going to get all of these attacks that are going to scale with magic, but they're going to be slashing attacks. So that's something important to keep in mind. So that means that if you have slash attack buffs on for your entire party, or if you build that in with her Esper, then she will actually get those bonuses for these Spellblade attacks, which is certainly very interesting. She's going to get Resist Magic and Taunting Spell, as well as Magic Barrier, and if she uses these all, that's going to give her more range. It's going to give her more more AoE at a very low AP cost. And again, if you're building some team with some slashers and then Kilphe, and she'll have Taunting Spell that will use slash attack, and it will use her magic stat. I'm actually curious about how powerful this can get, and then maybe in that case you're building her with the defense up sub passive and not the Spellblade one, the Providence of Earth, and in that case maybe she can use Taunting Spell, do some damage, maybe finish off somebody, and then take a few hits before maybe you have Ayaka heal her. That could be a very interesting way to go. Okay, then we have White Mage, which is kind of interesting for one spell only for me, and that's Holy. So Holy is going to be her largest single target attack, her most powerful single target attack, with a very good range for her and a reasonable AP cost, plus you get the 100% hit. This makes White Mage sub on its own look very good. She does not get Curaga, and she does not get full life, because that would probably be pretty insane, but she does get all the regular white mage stuff. So this is all super useful in the tower, and I'm very curious, what kind of white mage sub is she going to be? Is she going to be like Selir? Is she going to be like Mashery, where she'll drop everything to start casting Cure? At least she has Cura and Curada and not just Cure. But I'm very curious to see how she's going to use all of these skills, because that could really make or break her PvP. At the same time, the skill turn off function is going to be coming to us during August, so you will be able to mess around with this as well. And then finally, she has a limit burst, which is very cool because it decreases their magic resistance, and I believe that it does that, then hits them with the 200% magic damage here for this attack, which is a pretty powerful attack. It's a little less powerful than Energy Buster and the Holy, but it's going to do more because of the decrease in magic resistance, and then those skills are going to do more when she starts casting them right after that. So all in all, she's got a lot of different ways that you can build her depending on what you need. So the question is, should you pull for Kilphe? And I'm going to say that yeah, you probably should, regardless of your account, because she just has so many different ways that she is useful to a player in all sorts of different content, in tower, in PvP, in guild battle, all of that kind of stuff. She's a new type of unit, a kind of a bruiser mage that we don't have, so she's gonna fit everyone's account. She's good for everybody because we just face so many lightning units, and by lightning units I mean Orlando. So I really don't think that there's an account that shouldn't pull for her if they feel comfortable spending their Visior. Now, if you're in a position like me, you're probably not going to pull for her because, I mean, you're likely not to get her. Now, we do have the monthly shard bundle, or the monthly shard pickups for her, so even if you pick her up now and you buy what you can, we're gonna get 2k Visior soon from the end of the new player bonus, then you know what, if you got her in your early pull, you might actually get her to LB3 or something just through the natural Visior we get each week, plus the free shards and the shards you buy in the shop and whatever you can do. So it's becoming a lot easier to kind of just freestyle and develop a character. So if you want to go for her on the rate up with whatever you have, then again, you can do that and then just build her slowly, but it might be better if you're very low on Visior just to save up, because then you can not only have a better chance of getting a future unit, you can make that unit immediately impactful in your roster by definitely buying their shards opposed to maybe buying their shards or just playing the long game. So in the end, it's up to you, but let me know what you thought about the video. If this was helpful to you, tell me in the comments and I'm gonna get back to you because I try to answer every single comment that I get. Otherwise, we'll be seeing you soon with more videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can show your support with a like and subscribe, and by checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/MysidiaGaming. Until next time, keep it real, Mysidians.